reality, my mentality. Everything changes so rapidly, and I'm ready for the never-ending fire. Dancing with my deepest, dark desires. Miracle, how empirical. Don't know anything quite hysterical. Everything around me transpires as I fulfill my darkest desire.
Hey guys, only a few of you are actually subscribed, so if you aren't subscribed, please do consider subscribing if you want to see more of my content, because I really appreciate it, and yeah, enjoy the video. Yo, what's going on guys, Impulse7 here, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys summaries on the stories in FNaF Writes Book 7. And those stories are The Cliffs, The Breaking Wheel, and He Told Me Everything. I don't think I have to tell you guys that this video will have spoilers for all three stories, so if you don't want spoilers, click off the video now. I should also mention that The Cliffs and The Breaking Wheel have really sensitive topics like suicide and torture, so if you don't want to hear about that, then I suggest you click off this video. So now with all that out of the way, let's get into the summaries. I should warn you, this video is probably going to be pretty long, so yeah. So let's start off with The Cliffs. The main character is Robert. Kind of a similar name to Bob, which is the main character of Bunny Call. And Robert has a son named Tyler. Wait, that's the name of Bob's oldest son in Bunny Call. It probably doesn't mean anything, but it's kind of weird that they have like really similar names. Anyway, Tyler is 2 years old and he's currently going to daycare. So the story starts with him, with Tyler having to get ready for daycare, but Tyler wants to play on Rob's phone. So yeah, Rob has a phone with like games on it and stuff. So this is probably set in like modern times and stuff. So Robert is a single dad, and he used to have a wife named Anna, and interestingly, Robert has he lives in a bungalow. Now, I've mentioned a bungalow in the past, but if you don't know what it is, well, it's the same type of house as the Midnight Motorist house and the FNaF 4 house, or the one that we see on the main menu. And as well as that, Sarah from Too Beautiful and Jake from The Real Jake also live in bungalows, which makes me think that this detail is kind of important. Anyways, their house is near cliffs, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe near the Midnight Motorist house there's cliffs, because it kind of seems like the kind of area that would have cliffs. And the cliffs were like a common area for suicides, and teenagers would like freak each other out there, and little kids would say that ghosts of the people who died there still haunted the cliffs or something. Here we get more information about Anna. Her blood pressure started getting way too high like 2 months before the baby was due, before Tyler was due, and she ended up dying of childbirth. She had like a stroke or something, and Tyler had to be born early because of that. I wonder if maybe this is what could have happened to Mrs. Afton. I don't really think anybody has considered that Miss Afton could have died from childbirth. Maybe she didn't, but because we don't know for sure. But it would certainly explain why William's so protective of crying child and Elizabeth. Not Michael, because like he doesn't like Michael. And it could even be the reason he kills kids, but that's a big maybe. Maybe. So Tyler is described as having curly black hair. And that definitely sounds like Andrew's description from the Citrate stories, but yeah. So later on, after daycare, Robert takes Tyler to the store, and Tyler wants to get a Freddy plushie called the Tag-Along Freddy. And based on the story's description, I think you already think that this probably represents Psychic Friend Fredbear. After I tell you what it does, you'll probably be even more convinced. So, Tag-Along Freddy goes where your kid goes. Already sounds like the Fredbear plushie in FNaF 4. But it also sends you updates on, like, a wristband, so that when you're out of sight, you can still keep an eye on your kid. So I think we just got a slam dunk. This coupled with the evidence for Will plush from The Real Jake, I think this is what the Fredbear plushie is, or at least it does like the same thing, or something similar. I think William like has a microphone on it so he can communicate with Crying Child. You might think, oh, Psychic Friend Fredbear is not William Afton, but there's quite a bit of evidence in that. And like I keep talking about, FNaF 4 video coming up soon, and I'll talk about it there. Okay, so Robert bought Tyler the Tagalong Freddy, and Tyler took it literally everywhere. Sorry about the sound from my laptop. It does that sometimes, and I don't know why. It's just annoying. Ignore it. So, based on something interesting I thought about was the fact that Tagalong Freddy looks similar to Lonely Freddy, but more like a plushie. And Tagalong Freddy is the animatronic in a story about a man who is really lonely. And that was kind of interesting to me. So here's when things get a lot more interesting. Robert lets Tyler play in the sandbox outside. He realizes he forgot his phone inside, so he went in to get it. It was basically just like one of those sketchy-ass scammy calls. But when he goes back outside, Tyler was gone and the gate was open. Freddy was still there, but no Tyler. And Robert saw a white van drive away, and he was scared that Tyler could be in the van. Robert gets a message from Freddy that simply said, "Gone." And Robert got mad since, what's that gonna do to help him? So he kicks the Freddy hard, and he keeps looking for Tyler. He calls the police because, duh, what the frick else would you do? He was questioned, but Robert didn't really have much information to give them. Robert was beating himself up about this, thinking he's not a competent parent, and thinking if his wife were still alive, maybe Tyler wouldn't have gone missing. He gave the officers a description of what Tyler looked like, and later on, Robert got a message from Freddy that said, "Why don't you go to the cliffs?" Because the cliffs is the area where people commit suicide a lot. So, Robert started wondering if he has a reason for living, considering he doesn't really have anybody. His wife is gone. His son could be dead. We don't know at this point. So yeah, Freddy's just like, "Why don't you go to the cliffs?" Robert kind of feels like Freddy's mocking him, and he's like, "This thing is probably bad luck." So he takes it and throws it in the garbage. That part kind of reminded me a lot of 1:35 a.m. And by the way, I'm going to be reading that soon, so yeah, cool. But still, it reminded me of that a lot. Detective Ramirez, one of the cops Robert talked to, came by to get a shirt of Tyler's that she thought they could use for the dogs to help him find something like that. Okay, so when she leaves, Robert gets another message from Freddy that says, "Why don't you go to the cliffs?" Again, he brought Freddy back inside from the garbage. Sorry. He brought Freddy back inside from the garbage and starts to hate it. He ends up puking. He realized everything had been normal until he brought Tagalong Freddy into the house. He wanted to hurt it. So, when punching it did nothing, he decided to burn it. He just wanted the thing destroyed so he wouldn't get any more messages telling him to kill himself. But then he got another message from him, which should have been impossible. And again, the message said, why don't you go to the cliffs? So he goes outside, sees the plushie is burnt but still intact. So he did what I think anyone would do. He ran it over with his damn car. So he gets a call from Ramirez, and she informs him that they're still looking for Tyler and doing everything they could, blah, blah, blah. After that, another message from Freddy came, saying the exact same thing. Robert is basically, he feels broken at this point. So this story is reminding me a lot of 1:35 a.m., or just certain elements of it. Robert starts thinking about actually going to the cliffs, but, the thoughts he was having caused him to gag and stuff. So he decides to take a shower just 'cause. And after that, he starts stabbing the plushie and stuffing poked out of it. I guess that's supposed to, be the cover of it or something. The cover of the book. So he takes off the wristband and smashes it on the pavement. And decides that, he would go to the cliffs. He decides to go to the cliffs. But when he gets there, he starts to think more about it. He realizes that his wife and his son wouldn't have wanted him to do that, and Tyler could still be alive. So if Robert was gone, then who would take care of Tyler? So So Robert just takes the plushie, throws it off the cliff, right? And then he starts hearing cries, and they're Tyler's cries. He's stuck in like a hole or something. So Robert's able to help him out, and it's a happy ending, basically. We actually learned that Tyler only ran away because he saw a dog, and he followed it, but then it got lost. And that's honestly really cute. That's exactly what a 2-year-old would do, I feel like. So yeah, Robert looks over the edge to see where the Freddy is, and yeah, the Freddy's gone. The Freddy is not there anymore. So they start to walk away, and Robert decides that he's gonna start talking to Tyler about his wife, about Anna. So yeah, they start walking home. And yeah, that's the end of the story. I actually really liked it. There wasn't really too much FNaF in it, but it was a really nice story, and I think it made sense to like be here. And I'm glad it was a happy ending, because that 2-year-old was freaking adorable, and if he dies, I think I would too. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite story ever, but I think it's pretty high up there. I like the story, the lore, and I like that it was a happy ending. And it was pretty wholesome too. And I'm just glad I read it. It also has a moral of the story, that suicide is never the answer, and that there's always people out there who want you, who love you, and they would never want you to do that. So the story was really necessary, I think, and I'm glad it was included in the book. So now we're done with the cliffs. Now for a summary of the Breaking Wheel, which I think it's my favorite story ever now. So the main character is Reed. Basically, he hates this kid named Julius, which is basically the school's bully. They're in a robotics class, and apparently the teacher is kind of emotionless, and people thought she was like a robot or something. Reminds me a bit of Michael Afton. So the teacher is named Miss Billings. She has blue eyes and blonde hair, which is like Susie from the games. So yeah, that's kind of weird. Reed's two best friends, Shelly and Pickle. Yes, Pickle. Shelly, they're both really smart. Shelly usually gets A's on her work, and what's interesting is that they're working on a project, and they're working on a project, and it has, what am I trying to say here? Oh yeah, sorry, I have a script. I don't know why I'm not just reading it. So you're supposed to make a robot. They're supposed to make robots, and Shelly's was basically a dog that it was supposed to behave like a well-behaved dog. And it's interesting that she gets A's all the time. This might be a stretch, but like Susie in the games, which Miss Billings has a similar description to her, has a dog, and that's the reason that she died. So what if that's why Shelly gets the A's? Because Miss Billings is like Susie and her dog, and she likes dogs, you know? Probably not. Anyway, Reed has a little sister named Alexa who has baby dolls, and reminds me of Biddy Babs. I talked about this in Count the Ways, but yeah, stuff. So yeah, Shelly and Pickle are basically already finished their robots. Like I said, Shelly, hers is like a dog, and Pickles was small, but it was basically able to move around like anyway. Like I also said, Reed has a little sister named Alexa who has baby dolls, and Reed considered scaring her with her own dolls. This reminded me a lot of Michael and the Crying Child, how Michael used the Crying Child's plushies, or specifically Foxy, to scare Crying Child. That reminded me, that was a weird little detail, and I think that's supposed to be a connection. Not 100% sure, but I think it could be. So at this point in reading the story, I was thinking maybe the story could have something to do with Mangle, because of the dog thing and how Mangle could be possessed by a dog. If you think that's a dumb theory, well, Ultimate Custom Night, Samurai cutscenes, Foxy calls Mangle a dog. Thanks. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, and also in the description for the book, it started saying, it said, Reed ends up mangling the lesson. So yeah, that's interesting. Uh, and as we see later on, I don't think I was wrong. So yeah, let's just keep going. So Reed apparently wants to become a game designer when he grows up, which could possibly connect back to FNaF VR and how there are FNaF games in the game universe. So the bully, Julius, was building an exosuit for his project that he was gonna wear. Already this reminds me of the Springlock suits, and again, as we see later on, I don't think I'm wrong in that. So at one point Julius kind of yells because he's accused of stealing something. But then yeah. Why can't I speak? Yeah, he's accused of stealing something, but like he starts yelling because he's mad. He says he didn't. But then the teacher pressed a button on her remote, which controlled a monkey with cymbals. This reminds me of Music Man a lot. In Count the Ways, there was another monkey with cymbals in Millie's granddad's workshop. So maybe eventually this one is thrown away or something, and Millie's grandfather finds it and keeps it. I was just thinking it could be the same one. Just an idea though. So the twins had a younger brother named Ori, and today was half day, so Reed was gonna go hang out with Pickle and Shelly after school. One thing before I move on, I want to mention that at one point, like early on in the story, Reed was like enjoying the fact that Julius was kind of being owned or something. I don't know. Yeah, so Reed was like enjoying that, and he looked around to see if anybody else was, and there was this girl named Leah who was also enjoying it, and yeah, he was also enjoying it, or she was also enjoying it, and she's apparently people don't like talking to her or something. People don't really talk to her, but she's overly confident. And I'll talk about this later on, because like, why is it here? It's never brought up again. So yeah, like I said, today's a half day, so Reed goes to hang out with Pickle and Shelly after school. On the way out of class, Julius trips Pickle and gives him a nosebleed, but nobody sees except Reed, because everybody else is really oblivious. So Reed wants to leave the room, but like something is keeping him there. He doesn't leave. So Julius like insults him a lot, and it's also mentioned that Reed's mom died. Maybe a connection to Miss Afton if she is dead, which I feel like she is. Interestingly, Reed has curly brown hair. If you look at the crying child, he also has curly brown hair. Yeah, obviously it's brown. And there's also that little curl that goes down around his eyes. So yeah, he does have curly brown hair. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Reed is supposed to represent the crying child. So Julius says that he's gonna use his exosuit to trap Reed inside and make him into his servant. I mean, goddamn. I think that's supposed to connect to Springlock suits and the sheer sight problems with his brain, because he's literally a psychopath. So yeah, next Julius puts on the suit and tells Reed there's locking mechanisms on the exosuit, so that if he puts someone inside, he can lock them in and keep them there. So while Julius is trying to adjust the suit so he can get in properly, there was a power surge in the suit, and Julius was electrocuted. So in the time he had, Reed locked him in the suit and left him there. So now we go onto the bus. We go onto the bus, and Shelly is reading something about torture devices, and there was something mentioned called the wheel, or also known as the breaking wheel sometimes. So yeah, Reed was thinking, is it torture what he did to Julius? And this reminds me of the theory that crying child tortures Michael, and that's what FNaF 4 is. The first person I ever heard talk about this was underscore, aka God number 2. I have a feeling other people have thought of it before him, but he was the first person I heard talk about it, and he's cool. Yeah, he's cool, guys. He's cool. So yeah, this is backed up mostly by Blackbird, but now this story I think is supposed to like further prove it, because it reminds me of it a lot. So yeah, like I said, Shelley's on the bus reading about torture devices, and reads about the wheel, or the breaking wheel, which would hold someone in place and crush their bones. So, yeah, that's harsh. Anyway, Reed decides that after leaving the twins' house, he's going to go back to the school and that Julie is free. But yeah, at the twins' house, the twins are just like reading books and stuff, and Shelly and Pickle's mom go out. Mom goes out, and Reed is working on his robot, but it's not really working well. So he attached something anytime he attached something to it, it didn't fit right, and then when he tried to fix it, it didn't work right. So it was basically just, quote from the book, mangled and backward. So at this point, I was starting to think this probably has more to do with Mangle. So Reed remembers that Pickle's remote unintentionally is able to control Julius's exosuit, and he was worried that he might be actually torturing Julius right now because Ori, the younger brother of the twins, was using the remote and moving Pickle's robot around. So yeah, he was worried that he could be slamming Julius into the wall. So Pickle like flips a switch on the thing and makes it so that the joints can move without Jesus. The joints wouldn't get in the way of the movements, and it was like a contortionist. Yeah. Mangle. So, apparently the remote can't reach that far, but he was still worried. Reed was still worried. And then when Ori was smashing the robot into like this miniature version of their house, something hit the wall of the real house outside. So Reed was scared that it could have been Julius out there, and that he was really being controlled the whole time. And Ori makes the robot climb up the side of the house like a spider, and and then Reed hears something outside climbing up the goddamn house. This story is epic. He goes upstairs to see if he could see something in the window outside the house, and the house has motion sensors that turned on lights when they were triggered, and the lights turned on. But when he got up there, the movement on the house stopped, and Reed saw absolutely nothing out the window. So he starts searching around the house, and sees he can't find anything there, and the twins leave. Might I mention, the breaking wheel, this story, it literally scared me as I was reading it. Even though it's literally a piece of paper that I'm looking at, it literally scared me. I don't know why. It's just so cool. So yeah, the other three go out to get some sodas, or pop as us Canadians say. And so Reed is alone. And he was thinking Julius is probably going to be a lot more homicidal now. And that agony brought out the worst in people. So yeah. So he goes back into the family room and sees that the robot is in the miniature house behind the miniature version of the miniature house. If that makes any sense. I think you guys can tell what I'm talking about here. Like, in the miniature house, which is like a replica of their house, inside is a miniature version of the miniature house. I think you guys get what I mean, right? So behind that, inside the miniature house, there was the robot, right? And then from behind the real miniature house was Julius, and he pops out, his hair covered in his own blood. it didn't even look like Julius anymore. So, yeah, the the eyes, like his eyes were like rolled backwards, so you could only see the white. Kind of remind me of Michael from Sister Location. So Reed tries to get out of the house, but Mangle, I'm just gonna call him Mangle because that's basically what he is. He's basically Mangle plus Springtrap plus Michael Afton equals Julius. That's it. That's what he is. So yeah, Mangle is like blocking his way. Reed tries to get out of the house by exiting through Pickle's bedroom window. He tries to hit Mangle with a microscope, but it's not. But Mangle's not there. It's on the ceiling and drops down onto him. So Reed keeps trying to get out. He tries to get out, but he's pinned and he can't get out. And he could hear that the others had come back, and Reed was unable to get free, and he knew he was gonna die. And I'm pretty sure he did. And yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he did die. So yeah, I think he probably died. Pickle allowed Ori to go crazy with the robot, and I think we know that's not going to go well. Not that Reed would survive either way. But yeah, that's the end, guys. Overall, I think the story is a combination of Springtrap, Mangle, and FNaF 4. I think this is one of, if not my favorite Fazbear Fright stories now. I think it's probably my favorite. I just loved it. It was so weird, but so good. I've heard many people say that this one has a lot of lore. I'm not really sure what they're referring to, but hey, maybe I missed something. There's one thing I did notice, though. Remember when I talked about Leah? Yeah, well, she was never mentioned again. Now, why would Scott show us this? Well, basically, Leah and Reed agreed that Julius is a dumbass, and that's about it. So, does this mean anything? Well, in the story, Reed is a parallel to the crying child, seemingly. And Julius pairs all three of Michael, William, and Mangle. Reed basically tortures Julius, and like I said before, could hint at FNaF 4 being crying child torturing Michael. Leah doesn't like Julius either, obviously, right? Because he's a bully. It's also mentioned that Leah is largely ignored by people, and this reminds me of how Golden Freddy is usually separate from the other animatronics, and they don't really seem to notice him. He's not really on stage or anything. So is it possible that Leah is supposed to represent Cassidy, and this is a little tiny nod towards Golden Duo? If it is true, it's fine if you don't believe it. Maybe. Maybe so, maybe no. Just something I thought about. And yeah. I just, I'm gonna put this into multiple parts because this video is already getting really long. So yeah, in the next video, I'll do He Told Me Everything. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Link in the description to my Discord server. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Impulse7 out. Peace.